Om Amriteshware Namaha. It's a great honor and blessing for us to have with us Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, a great scholar, nationalist, former parliamentarian, and author. Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe is a nationalist social worker, a researcher of political science, a trainer in democracy, and a former parliamentarian. Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is a postgraduate in English literature and a PhD in political science, both from the University of Mumbai. Since January 2018, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is the president of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, ICCR. He has been the Minister of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Upper House of the Indian Parliament from July 2016 to July 2022. Also, he has served as the chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education, Women, Children, Youth and Sports. During 2014 to 2020, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe was the National Vice President of the Bharatiya Janata Party, India's principal ruling party. Besides, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is the founding Director General and Vice President of RMP, the famous NGO Rambau Malgi Prabodhini, a unique institution for honing leadership skills through training and orientation. In the past, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe has worked on the Management Council of the University of Mumbai. Between 2012 and 15, he was also the Vice President of the 208-year-old Asiatic Society of Mumbai. Dr. Sahasrabuddhe has authored and edited over half a dozen books in Marathi and English, and a couple of which have received distinguished awards. Truly a great honor for us to have you, sir, with us. He's a great scholar and a great follower of Indian traditions, a scholar in the Puranas, and one of the most prominent citizens of India today. We welcome you, sir, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, to Amritapuri, to Amma's Divine Abode. Thank you all. We now look forward to the rest of the program and to your speech. Namaskar.
Amrita School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies has taken up many initiatives as envisioned by our beloved Amma. Today, we are honored and proud to launch a few of them in the presence of the esteemed scholar and visionary Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji. We pray to Amma for her blessings and request Dr. Vinay ji to formally launch these initiatives. Amma says, education should spread light within and without. Education should develop the curiosity to know the internal world just as much it does to know the external world. Education should instill awareness and strengthen the deep bond between the student and his nation, the world, his fellow beings, other creatures, nature and God. Ignited from her words, these two books are endeavors to furnish holistic learning. The title of the book is Colors of Wisdom, which will be taught as the 11th standard textbook for Indian culture and value systems, while the second book title is Architects of a Great Nation, which will be taught for the 12th standard across Amrita Vidyalayams. Very recently, UGC requested universities in India to start courses in Indian culture and heritage to attract students of foreign nationality. This was very exciting to us because our beloved Amma had already asked the School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies to design a course for the same purpose. Now, may I please request Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji to launch a course on Diploma in Indian Culture and Philosophy. We have designed this course with a lot of flexibility so that the student can take it part by part to earn certificates and stitch them together to get the diploma degree. next is the Manuscript Conservation and Digitalization Center. As a part of the Manuscript Conservation project that was mentioned earlier, a new center has been set up by the School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies in order for preservation and digitalization of manuscripts. The center takes up conservation in two levels: preventive conservation that aims to prevent deterioration and ensure the long-term preservation of manuscripts, and remedial conservation that restores manuscripts that has already suffered damage or decay.
Namaskaram. At the outset, let me pay my deep respects to Pujaniya Mata, our dear Amma, Mata Amrutanandamayi ji. I seek her blessings before I start my presentation. Respected Swami Amruta Swarupa Ananda Puri ji, all other revered Swamis present over here, members of the Academia of the University, spiritual sadhaks who have come from different parts of the globe, and my dear student friends. It's a very, very humbling experience to be here, sitting in front of you on this chair and talking to you. I consider it as a part of the blessings of the divine powers, and more particularly, Pujaniya Amma. Friends, I have had the privilege of addressing gatherings. Since I'm in politics, it is something which is essential. I was in the academia, and therefore I have addressed members of the academic council, senate, professors, teachers, students. But to address a gathering of this kind, so diverse and so very dedicated to the cause of spirituality, is a very new experience and therefore very humbling one as well. But to my student friends, young friends over here, let me tell you that, and you will agree with me, that to deliver a speech is comparatively easy than to listen to a speech. But you are all in a spiritual environment, so you may not be finding it all that difficult, and I am witnessing. I was trying to figure out whether somebody is looking into the smartphone, but hardly anyone, which is also a very great relief for a speaker like me. And I was telling you that delivering a speech is a lot easy than listening to a speech. And there goes an anecdote which people tell about the renowned scientist of the yesteryears, Albert Einstein. When Einstein came out with his theory of relativity, naturally it was a new knowledge creation, and every other day he was asked to come and deliver a lecture and explain. And when he was about to go and deliver his 125th lecture, he shared with his driver who was taking him to the venue where the lecture was to happen. He told him that I am so very bored. Every time I have to go and play the same long play record, and people don't understand because it's a very new and in a way complicated subject. And say the same thing again and again, and 125 times, you can imagine. The driver said humbly, "Sir, but I also had to listen to all your speeches. In a way, I was compelled to listen to all your speeches. But then, The driver said that if you allow me, and those were the days not of Facebook and social media, and newspapers were also comparatively less in number, and there was no television around. So nobody perhaps knew how Albert Einstein looks like. And therefore the driver said, "Sir, can I replace you? I will present myself as Einstein. Anyway, nobody knows you, nobody knows how do you look like. And you sit on the front seat, on the steering, and allow me to deliver a speech in your place. Just examine, test my ability." Einstein said, let's make an experiment. And therefore they exchanged their seats. Einstein was there on the driver's seat. And at the venue, this fellow, the driver of Einstein, presented himself as Einstein. He was taken like I was taken over here on the dais. He came to the podium and delivered a flawless speech, 45 minutes. And there was a big round of applause. Einstein was sitting in the audience. And he was also very happy that the driver has really by-hearted as what he had claimed, line by line, without mistake. So after the speech was over, again the master of ceremony came and he said, "What a wonderful speech. And now is the time of questions and answers." So naturally, Einstein was a little amused. So the first question, after the master of ceremony appealed, came from somebody in the audience. And the driver, who was there on the dais, came to the podium and said, "It's such a simple question, why should I answer it? Let my driver answer it." And he asked Albert Einstein to answer that question. So the moral of the story is, to deliver a speech is comparatively easy. To listen to it is a little difficult thing. But I'm going to make it less difficult. And I'm sure the subject is so very a part of our common understanding that you will also realize that, all these things, in fact, we were aware of. There is nothing new about it. And I'm just trying to put it in a perspective and present it to you. And the subject, as it says, India's soft power strengths. In fact, let me tell you that in our country, in the Ministry of External Affairs, which presides over the regime of soft power or global cultural relations, there is some kind of a understandable hesitation whether to use the term power or not. So let us call it global cultural relations, or our soft strengths, soft strength potential for that matter. And I'm sure many of you must have already Googled what is soft power, and you must have come across a book by Joseph Nye, formerly director of the Kennedy School of Government in USA. And he came out with this particular book, a seminal work, a thesis on the concept of soft power in 2004. Not that before he came out with this book, the concept of soft power was not there. That is certainly not the case. In fact, the history of India is all about soft power. See, earlier Columbus and later on Vasco da Gama decided to find out whether India is located. And they took the journey, and finally Vasco da Gama came here, right in Kerala. And what was the reason? Why did he come? Because due to the Constantinople war, there was short supply of Indian spices, or rather it was stopped. And therefore, to find out the sea route to approach India and get the spices from there, this Portuguese sailor came over here. So the reason at the core somewhere was our spices. And remember, our spices are our soft power. And therefore, soft power was already there, but the label that this is soft power perhaps came from Joseph Nye and his book. Previously also soft power was there, but it came more into prominence post-Cold War and also post-Second World War. Post-Cold War, because after USSR became a thing of the past, America also realized that now we can spread our influence not through military might, but through all those things which go with the idea of America. Similarly, after the Second World War, it was a realization that perhaps traditional wars are not possible now because there were many nuclear powers around in the world, and perhaps we cannot afford to engage in a military conflict. Therefore, let us focus upon our soft power. That also was one of the realizations. And to give you an example as to how American soft power had spread its wings all over the world, many of you might have heard about or visited the capital of China, Beijing, or the capital of Israel, Tel Aviv. I had the occasion of visiting both these capitals, and I could not help but leave with the impression that in Beijing, you realize that perhaps you are in a Mandarin America, or in Tel Aviv, you are in a Hebrew America. Language is different, but otherwise everything is Americanized. I'm sure some of you must have heard the name of Joseph Friedman. Friedman had written a book, Thomas Friedman's famous book is The World is Flat. And he was talking about the flattening of the world in the context of globalization, saying that the global competition is now at such a stage where every other country has a particular level playing field. And therefore, to underscore that point, he said, the world is flat. But in a different context, and those who have come from abroad would agree with me, that the global community is experiencing some kind of a cultural flattening of the world. Everybody is lured by America. And our ethos is now so very dominated by the West, more particularly America, that we take pride in looking like America, in behaving like Americans, even writing English like what Americans write, and speaking with the same accent which is heard there in America. So, the beauty of India's soft strength is that if you move around any metropolitan city in our country, whether in Mumbai or in Delhi or in Kolkata or in Chennai, you don't get the feeling that we are in a Tamil America or a Marathi America, nothing of that kind. You are in India very much. Because at the core of the whole thing is the subject of identity. And identity is not something which is primordial. Identity is now, by the social scientists as well, accepted as a driving force. All other things may teach you how to live. Identity tells you why to live. So it's a very significant positive source of energy. And therefore, as many of you must have noticed, gone are the days when media persons habitually used to describe cities like New York or Mumbai as melting pot. Today, that terminology has become a thing of the past. They use the term salad bowl. Because in a salad bowl, you continue with your original essential identity and even then become a part of a larger identity. And this is what Indian philosophy has also taught us. We can live with multiple identities at the same time, no problem. Because, and that takes me to the fundamentals of India's soft strength, which is Indian philosophy. Many times we confuse soft strength, soft power, cultural relations, or even culture for that matter, with only music, dance, culinary cuisine traditions, architecture, craft. All these things are important, certainly. They are the ingredients of India's soft power, soft strength. But the fundamentals are in Indian philosophy. And there are at least 5 such fundamentals. They start with the idea of spiritual democracy. We are essentially and first and foremost a spiritual democracy. And since for several millennia we have lived with the idea of spiritual democracy, we are able to successfully implement the political democracy. In the parliament, if you have visited the House of Elders, Rajya Sabha, there is a scripture written on the gate through which we enter, and it says, Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. The truth is one, but the wise men describe it differently. And this has been our core understanding, which is why we never allowed any kind of monopolistic approach, my way or highway. That was never our consideration. We said, you also come, you also come, you also come, because we are all going in the same direction to achieve the same objective. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. There are countries wherein, although they call themselves as secular democracies, many of the members of the parliament are appointed by a religious body, church maybe. In our country, this would never happen. Theocracy has been a complete no-no in India. And therefore, the philosophy behind India's cultural strength, cultural relations, soft strength, starts with Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The second one is the unity, not just in, but of our diversity. We are diverse, no doubt. But this diversity doesn't hamper our innate sense of unity. Somebody was telling me that if one takes up a journey from, let's say, Kanyakumari right up to the Himalayas, in Kerala he comes across somebody called Ramalingam. In Tamil Nadu, Ramachandran. In Karnataka, it is Ramappa. In Andhra, it is Ramayya. In Maharashtra, it is Ram Bhau. In Gujarat, it is Ram Bhai. Ram is everywhere. So we are one. Although this oneness manifests in diverse ways, which is why I said diversity of our unity. Many of us speak different languages in our country, but many languages have common sayings and proverbs, not because some weird Department of Languages of the Government of India issuing a GR that coin these kinds of verbs or proverbs or maybe sayings. No. We think in a particular way, which is why our proverbs and our sayings are also of a common wisdom. The third important aspect of our philosophy is our idea of Antyodaya, which is the last man in the queue, which means that the most deprived should be considered as the most deserving when it comes to the distribution of the fruits of development. Globally, even today, global community is fighting and yet to decide whether capitalism is better or socialism has more strength. In our country, we have gone beyond these binaries and we have understood that the weakest deserves the first preference, which is Antyodaya. It also has its moorings in our scriptures, our philosophy. Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Deendayal Upadhyaya, and several thinkers and philosophers have emphasized on the spirit of Antyodaya. The fourth one is our idea of confluence with Mother Nature. Many of us, and especially people of the older generation, start their day by saying, and it's a prayer to Mother Earth, which says, Padasparsham Kshamasva me. Mother Earth, I'm going to put my feet on you, and please forgive me for doing this. Because we respect nature. There are philosophies, there are theological streams, they talk about conquering Mother Nature. We are for confluence with Mother Nature. We are always grateful to Mother Nature. And therefore, although globally in the United Nations and elsewhere there are discussions about sustainability for the last maybe 3 decades, in our country, for several millennia, we are conscious about the idea of sustainability because we never talk about conquering nature. We are always for confluence with nature. The fifth important philosophical tenet is what the G20 logo tells us, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Kutumba, family. That is the primary unit of our society, and not just our society, globally as well. But mindless individualism has hampered our collective spirit, and that has impacted negatively on our families as well. And that importance that we attach to the institution of family is in a way communicated through Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole universe, the whole world, Vasudha is a family. And remember, it says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, not Vasudhaiva Samajam or Vasudhaiva Gruham, Vasudhaiva Nivasam. No. It says Kutumbakam. Because that organic relationship is something which is underscored over there. So these are the 5 unique features of India's soft strength as manifested in our core philosophy. And I'm sure there won't be and there cannot be any difference of opinion because these are very lofty ideals. They talk of humanity in a way. But based on these fundamentals, we have to now work more on various manifestations of this philosophy in diverse departments. And there are many. But sadly, many of us are victims of Atma Vismruti. We have forgotten who we are, what we are, and more importantly, why we are. Here in such a great spiritual environment, I'm sure you are made conscious about the very purpose of human life. But that consciousness is also something to do with our soft strength. And therefore, it manifests in multiple ways. Through our Indian traditional knowledges, through our arts, through the very society and the people of India. All these things are the vehicles of our soft strength. Let's take the example of our great epical traditions, Ramayana and Mahabharata. I am happy this university teaches Ramayana and Mahabharata as a mandatory kind of a part of the syllabus. I must congratulate the university leadership for making it a practice. At the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, we have been since 2015 organizing an international Ramayana festival every year. And troops of artists presenting Ramayana from several parts of the globe come to India and present their art through some kind of a dance drama. People from Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, many parts. Once our office sent an invitation to the government of Brunei. Brunei is a very rich country next to Malaysia. And there 100% people are the followers of Islam. So our office was wondering, we have sent the invitation whether they would come or not. But happily, not only did they come, but they presented a beautiful story of Ramayana through their dance and drama and music and everything. So over a cup of tea, when our people were sharing that we were a little apprehensive whether you will come or not, the head of the Ramayana troupe told our people that you are making a mistake. We have changed our religion, not our culture. This is the strength of Ramayana. Same is true with our scriptures. Again, I must congratulate this university for starting this course, which you gave me the honor of inaugurating. This is important because this is a part of our tradition. It is because of this we are what we are. Take out the culture from the idea of India, and precious little remains. Take out spirituality from our culture, and precious little perhaps would remain. So it is intertwined, and so are also our traditional knowledges, including our scriptures. Few years back, the president of Iran had come to India. And in his conversation with the senior leaders, including the Prime Minister, he said that Maharshi Panini, grammarian, is a strong link between Iran and India. Because Maharshi Panini created the grammatical structure of Persian and also that of Sanskrit. So it was decided to organize an international seminar on Panini as a grammarian at the University of Tehran in Iran. I had the privilege of visiting Tehran. And before the inauguration of the seminar, when I was meeting with the Vice Chancellor, over a cup of tea, told me that, Mr. Sahasrabuddhe, in Tehran University we teach Upanishad. Tell me, in which university in India Upanishad is being taught? Now I would tell him that there is a university here in Kerala which teaches Upanishad. This is our strength. This makes us what we are. Similarly, about our dance traditions, Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Odissi, they don't come just as an entertainment item. They connote a philosophy. Every mudra in our dance traditions connote a part of philosophy, something. There is some messaging out of that. Such a colorful and brilliant dance traditions that we have. Language, Sanskrit, already I referred to. Our temples, our Indian movies, our culinary and cuisine traditions. If I refer to movies, everywhere Indian movies are extremely popular. And not just movies, our television serials also. Why? Because somewhere or the other, there might be some masala movies and some movies with all kinds of fights and struggles and everything. But somewhere or the other, there is some element of Indian thought tradition. Our music is also equally powerful. When I was there at University of Bukhara in Uzbekistan, the entire Indian delegation was received with the band of the university playing the tunes of Avara. That is the magic. In Kazakhstan, people told me that we love Indian movies, but tell your people to send them to us with Kazakh subtitles and not Russian subtitles. Now it is for us to work on that. Similarly, our culinary and cuisine traditions. You undertake Google search, but you will find that not a single country on the earth where there is an Indian restaurant which is not making a brisk business. Indian dishes are popular, South Indian, North Indian, our desserts, everything is so very popular. These are the blessings of Annapurna. And we at the Indian Council of Cultural Relations have decided to recognize some of the remarkably performing restaurants abroad who are attracting a huge amount of footfall of the locals and serving decent food, hygienic, clean, and representing Indian culinary cuisine traditions with an Annapurna certificate. Because we need to recognize their contribution as well. They are also the flag bearers of our soft power. Similarly, about Ayurveda, about yoga. Even our democracy is our soft power. I was in a country formerly a part of the USSR, Armenia. And when I interacted with the people over there, I was curious to ask a question to them that your country was a part of the USSR previously and now you are a democratic country. So tell me, which experience was better? Being a part of USSR under a not so democratic rule or as an independent democratic country? After initial hesitation, some of them revealed to me that, to be honest, the previous days were better. Because democracy to them has not delivered anything. It has not brought any new value to the table, sadly. Not commensurate to the expectations. In India, it will never happen. We know we had a draconian rule of emergency during the 70s for about 19 months. But now it has become a thing of the past. No political party, no political leader can ever in his wildest of the dreams think of imposing emergency and putting the entire country into a jail. Not possible in India at all. There are many countries who attained independence and became a democratic country post-Second World War, and several of them have relapsed into an autocratic rule. India is one of the scintillating examples of our continued commitment with democracy. And therefore, democracy is also an important segment of our soft power. Our NRIs, they are also our soft power. With their presence on the foreign land, they are telling people over there what India is about. And therefore, we have such a rich treasure that has been given to us by our forefathers as a part of our traditions, our culture, our ethos, our understanding of the universe, our spirituality, our traditional sciences, our art. What is required? What requires is that we should be deeply conscious of all these things. You must have heard about Kasturi Mruga. It's an animal, a deer. It has kasturi, which is a kind of a fragrant element with it as a part of his body. It is there in his belly button. The Mruga is unconscious of it. In Maharashtra, Saint Tukaram has once said, "Tujhe aahe tuja pashi, paritu jaga chukalasi." Whatever is yours is with you, but you have forgotten where it is placed exactly. And that is the sorry state of affairs insofar as we all members of the Indian society, Indian people are concerned. So we need to evolve that self-realization about our strength. If we forget, why would the world would remember? And therefore we require to remember, require to revisit what all precious that we have been handed over to by our forefathers. This makes India what India is. Of late, Indian Council for Cultural Relations is engaged in a program called Gen X Democracy Network, under which some 75 countries we are going to cover, from where all democracies we are inviting young leaders, political leaders, members of parliament, ministers, who are all below the age of 35 to India, and offering them an experiential learning opportunity of India. And many are going back with a deep sense of gratitude. A Jamaican member of parliament came over here. In her feedback, she said that India needs to blow its trumpet more loudly. Unfortunately, global community doesn't know. And sadly, many of them do not know that they do not know about India. That is the most sad state of affairs. And it is for you and me to change it. Soft power, soft strength, cultural relation is too important a subject to be left to the government. It is for all of us to contribute, first of all, to respect, to work upon that, to dwell deep into that, to add to the knowledge creation which is already there, and then to showcase it before the global community with evidences, with requisite confidence, with rigor of research. I was so happy to have a wonderful interaction with our Pujaniya Amma yesterday. And she rightly pointed out that we have to respect not just Bhakti Marga, Karma Marga, but Jnana Marga as well. And you are the Jnana Margis here. And you are the Bhakti Margis here. And I am seeing how you are contributing in the Seva. You are the Karma Margis here. This is the confluence of all the three streams, like Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, like Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. So this opportunity of enlightenment that all of us have got thanks to Puja Amma, let us take it to a different level and in our own way contribute to India's soft strength. Why should we require some Will Durant or somebody else to tell us about what we are? Do we not know? We must. And we must know and tell the younger generation also what we are. And how wonderful we can make a big difference to the global community. I cite one example of a friend of mine before I conclude my presentation. This is about the teacher-taught relationship. Here, education science is also taught, learned. And the core of Indian education philosophy is our emphasis on a very extraordinarily evolved teacher-taught relationship. See, Sandipani or Rama or Krishna or Vasishtha, all these were the pairs of teachers and taughts. But Ramakrishna went to Vasishtha, or Krishna Balaram went to the home of Sandipani, not because their houses were one-room kitchen and therefore there was no possibility of having the teacher over there. They went to the Guru Graha because our philosophy tells us that learning and teaching happens by way of illustration. We learn from our gurus Not simply when they are in the classrooms, but more perhaps when they are out of the classroom. That is the beauty. And this was deep in his mind. One of my friends, an Indian teacher, when he went to America and then started his teaching profession over there, I had a chance to converse with him, and I asked him that what is the difference between your teachings in India and your teaching experience here in America? He said there are many things, some of them are positive, some of them are not so positive. But let me tell you how an Indian teacher can really make a difference. And he shared his experience. When he used to teach a class 12 group of students, once he found that somebody sitting right on the second row of the benches in the classroom, a boy, 15 something, all of a sudden he started dozing in the classroom, taking a nap while the lecture is on. So our teacher firstly ignored, and when it repeatedly happened, he went back and tried to touch his shoulder and make him stand, or rather awaken him. When it happened for a third or fourth time, the student got up. And an American lad, 15 something, he told politely but firmly, "Sir, teaching is your job. Whether to listen to your lecture or not is my liberty. So you may teach, I may not listen, I may doze a little bit. What is your problem?" That kind of a message he wanted to communicate. An Indian teacher, not so very accustomed to this kind of a blunt response coming from a lad of 15, he got a little taken aback. But he was curious to know as to why that 15-something was sleeping in the classroom at 11 o'clock in the morning. So he continued to have a dialogue with the student. The student was not very willing, but finally he yielded. And they had a conversation over a cup of coffee. And the student told, "Sir, I am aware that you are keen to understand why I am sleeping and what is the problem with me. So let me tell you that in my family, there are some turbulences. My mother has now got a new father for me in our family. And this new father doesn't want me to be a part of the family. He has been insisting that I should be staying in a hostel or maybe sharing a room. And after repeated clashes, finally, I have told him that within 6 months, I'll find a shared apartment. But I don't have money. My parents are not going to give me anything. So now I have started working in a McDonald's shop between 10 in the night and 3 in the morning. So by the time I come to my home and go to bed, it is 4 o'clock in the morning. Therefore, it is humanly impossible for me to remain awake at 11 o'clock, which is why when you are teaching, I am dozing off." And finally the student said, "But sir, I understand that you are from India, and it is because of that you wanted to go to the root cause of the fact that why a student is sleeping. No American teacher would even think about this. This is India. This is the strength of our interpersonal relationship. This is the strength of our cultural relationship. This is the way we relate with the entire society, and not just society, with the entire universe. Let us understand this precious gift of culture that the great Almighty has given to us. Let us not just preserve it, but let us spread the light of it to all parts of the globe for the benefit of the entire humanity. Thank you very much.